But tonight, I'll go head-to-head with a man who actually wants to deport me for having these very views. And over 104,000 Americans apparently agree with him. That's coming up. Anyone who's watched this show over the past few weeks knows I've taken a pretty strong stand on guns in America. It's not escaped the notice of supporters of gun rights, and it's led to a petition on the White House official website, no less. It's entitled, and I quote, "Deport British citizen Piers Morgan for attacking Second Amendment." Take a look. More than 104,000 people have signed it so far. And joining me now is one of the people behind the petition, Alex Jones. He's host of the Alex Jones Show. Welcome to you.
Piers, thanks for having me.
Why do you want to deport me?
Well, we did it as a way to bring attention to the fact that we have all of these foreigners and the Russian government, the official Chinese government.
Fox News alert: for the second time in 3 days, the United Nations has had to postpone action on a controversial new gun control treaty that would regulate firearms across the globe.
Mao said political power goes out of the barrel of a gun. He killed about 80 million people because he's the only guy that had the guns.
No world leader ever had so much power.
He was a cold-blooded Machiavellian.
But by 1966, Chairman Mao was losing his grip.
The madness that he saw in China.
There was only one way out. He must destroy China, to remake China, to save China. His weapon was a fanatical youth movement acting to the tenets of his Little Red Book.
So we did it to point out that this is globalism and the mega banks that control the planet and brag that they've taken over in Bloomberg, AP, Reuters, you name it.
So mostly what they do is hold summits.
I think that right now the question is, do we all work for central bankers? That's what I want to address to our guest tonight. Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge? But aren't we all just living and dying for what the central banks do? Aren't we all just counting on the fact that there's a Bernanke put and that we won't go any lower than, say, 5% down from here?
Of course we are.
Brag that they're going to get our guns as well. They've taken everybody's guns but the Swiss and the American people. And when they get our guns, they can have their world tyranny.
It is backed by President Obama, which is a reversal from the policies under President Bush. But our next guest says that these UN rules could fundamentally change American gun laws and threaten our Second Amendment rights right here at home.
While the government buys 1.6 billion bullets, armored vehicles, tanks, helicopters.
Well, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, along with the U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement Office, have placed a large and rather interesting order. They've ordered 450 million rounds of ammunition. All right, so this is interesting because this is not the Pentagon making the order for the military. It's DHS and ICE. And to give you a little perspective here, there are only about 311 million people living in the entire country. So it begs the question, why such a massive order, 450 million bullets?
Predator drones armed, now in U.S. skies, being used to arrest people in North Dakota.
When it comes to privacy, we're screwed. According to the Los Angeles Times, unmanned Predator drones aren't just for hunting terrorists in the Middle East anymore. They're being used to hunt American citizens, too.
A new generation of surveillance drones could soon be watching us all from overhead. The Federal Aviation Administration is expected to announce plans to expand the use of domestic drones in American airspace. How many of them might there be above our heads?
Well, there's a growing number already, Shep, but according to the experts, and indeed the FAA itself, there could be as many as 30,000 of these kind of drones, 30,000 flying overhead.
The Second Amendment isn't there for duck hunting. It's there to protect us from tyrannical government and street thugs. Take the women in India. Your piece earlier on CNN I was watching during Anderson Cooper's show didn't tell you that the women of India have signed giant petitions to get firearms because the police can't and won't protect them.
This is a SIG 550. It's designed to destroy anything standing within its 400-meter trajectory. And there are over 500,000 of them kept in Swiss homes. Guns and shooting are a strong Swiss tradition. Basic military training is mandatory for young men, and afterwards they're required to keep their weapon at home.
The answer is, hey, wait a minute, I have FBI crime statistics that come out a year late, 2011. 20+% crime drop in the last 9 years. Real violent crime, because more guns means less crime.
Yeah, you know, I sort of like Switzerland.
You do? And why?
Because nobody knows the name of the president. And it's nobody knows the name of the president of Switzerland, and they have cantons, which are individual states. They have various languages, and they always stay neutral in world wars, and they're well armed, and they have a militia, and everybody has big guns in their house, and they don't have crime and violence. And it's very it's not a centralized government.
Right.
Britain took the guns 15, 16 years ago, tripling of your overall violent crime. True, we have a higher gun violence level, but overall muggings, stabbings, deaths, those men raped that woman in India to death with an iron rod 4 feet long. You can't ban the iron rods. The guns, the iron rods, Piers, didn't do it. The tyrants did it. Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms. Doesn't matter how many lemmings you get out there on the street begging for them to have their guns taken. We will not relinquish them. Do you understand? That's why you're going to fail, and the establishment knows no matter how much propaganda, the Republic will rise again when you attempt to take our guns. My family in the Texas Revolution against Santa Anna, my family was at the core on both sides starting that, because Santa Anna came to take the guns at Gonzales, Texas. Piers, don't try what your ancestors did before. Why don't you come to America? I'll take you out shooting. You can become an American and join the Republic.
You finished?
Yes, I am finished. You will not take my right. You go through background checks to get guns. How about Prozac? You know the number one, that's the big sponsor, isn't it? Or that whole class of drugs.
Let me ask you a question.
Oh, whoa, got to cut that off, don't you?
The list includes 15-year-old Kip Kinkle withdrawing from Prozac when he shot 22 classmates, killing 2 after murdering his mother and stepfather at his home in Springfield, Oregon. 14-year-old Elizabeth Bush on Prozac when she blasted away at fellow students in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, wounding 1. 18-year-old Jason Hoffman on Effexor and Celexa when he opened fire at his California high school, wounding 5. 15-year-old Sean Cooper on a mix of antidepressants when he shot students in Idaho. 15-year-old TJ Solomon also on a mix of antidepressants when he aimed his shotgun at classmates in Conyers, Georgia, wounding 6. And 17-year-old Eric Harris on Luvox when he and partner Dylan Klebold killed 12 classmates and a teacher in the bloodiest school massacre yet, Columbine.
Don't want to talk about the U.S. number one cause of death is suicide now, because they give people suicide mass murder pills.
As the number of deaths by car accidents falls in the U.S., the number of suicides among Americans has risen. That's according to new statistics from American Journal of Public Health. Suicide is now the leading cause of injury-related death.
Your answer is give more money to the psychiatrists and psychologists to put more crazy people on drugs that make them kill people, Piers.
Let's try and have a debate here.
Yeah.
Answer me this question.
I'm sick of the same old script here, bud.
It's fine, bud. How many gun murders were there in America last year? Do you know?
There were about 11,458, and about 74% of those were gang-related, gangbangers shooting each other. You get 3,500 to 4,000.
That wasn't the
How
question.
many people died from infections in hospitals? 197,000.
Let me just ask you a second
That's
question.
right.
Centers for Disease Control reports 99,000 Americans die each year, and almost 2 million are sickened by hospital germs.
Hospitals are dirty.
How many gun murders were there in Britain?
How many great white sharks?
No, how many
kill people every year, but they're scared to swim?
Right. How many gun murders were there in Britain?
A very low amount. I already went over those statistics.
Many? Do you know?
It was only a few hundred.
No. How many gun murders?
I actually did pull up the statistics. Here, let me pull them out right here. I figured you'd do that.
Gun murders in Britain last year.
UK violent crime, capital of Europe. London Telegraph. Here, let me give you more.
It's quite a simple question.
Well, that's the oldest.
You're a very loud man.
That's the oldest Perry Mason tactic to ask me some little factoid.
It's not a little factoid.
I already said earlier,
We're talking about
England has a lot lower gun crime rate because you took all the guns.
Let me try exactly my point.
But you've got hordes of people burning down cities and beating old women's brains out every day.
Ridiculous.
They arrest people in England if they defend themselves. That's on record. My God, you have got a total police state. Everybody's fleeing that country because you've had to flee here, bud. Why don't you tell folks? Yeah, you fled here. Why don't you go back and face the charges for the hacking scandal?
Answer this question. How many...
Why'd you get fired from the Daily Mirror for putting out fake stories? You're a hatchet man of the New World Order. Okay. You're a hatchet man.
Tim, what do you think America's place in the New World Order should be? It's always been seen as the global policeman. But as you said before, it's hard to see with all these military conflicts where the winner and loser lies. What should America be doing
I think
globally?
The global policeman should be the United Nations.
And I want to say this right here. You think you're a tough guy? Have me back with a boxing ring in here, and I'll wear red, white, and blue, and you can wear your Jolly Roger.
Okay.
You know what?
Let's try again. How many gun murders were there?
Oh, you're going to ban your fist now?
In Britain last year.
How many chimpanzees can dance on the head of a pin? I already went over those statistics.
Do you know the answer?
No, I don't.
You said hundreds.
It's very low.
You said hundreds.
Yes.
It's actually 35.
Well, the point is you can...
Against 11,000. Do you understand the difference between 11,000
Yeah, England
and
wants
35?
to ban knives now because tens of thousands are getting stabbed.
But do you understand the
knives?
difference?
The knife doesn't kill people.
Do you understand?
The gun doesn't kill people.
In Britain, the first day of the so-called January sales turned to tragedy after a man was stabbed to death on London's busy Oxford Street. Police believe the 18-year-old died after rivalry between two groups of teenagers turned violent. As many as 10 people were arrested following the incident.
Yes.
Listen, do you understand you're not going to pull on America's heartstrings? They know your script, okay? You're not going to get our guns. By the way, you guys always say, we just want to take the semi-autos, okay, and all this other stuff when semi-autos aren't even, rifles aren't even used but in a fraction of the crimes. You can pull those numbers up, okay? No, hold on.
Let me ask you one question. Which weapon was predominantly used in the Aurora movie theatre shooting?
M4 AR-15 variants.
So it was a semi-automatic assault rifle.
Again.
Okay,
but statistically, it's very, very low.
Do you agree it was the single biggest shooting in the history of America in terms of people hit by a shooter? Do you know that?
No, I believe that there were others. There's been some other shootings with about over 30.
No, this was the single biggest mass shooting.
Well, listen, you're just going... No, there have been bombings of Wall Street.
Let me ask you a second question.
Are we going to... Listen, why can't the pilots have firearms?
Alex,
we trust them to fly the planes.
Alex, you've had a lot to say.
No, my point is the Second Amendment is sacrosanct, and you're not getting it.
Do you know which weapon was used in the Oregon shopping mall mass shooting recently?
I understand that people... who are mentally ill on all the serotonin reuptake inhibitors, who play these shoot-em-up games, want to go out and do this. Because there's criminals, I don't lose my rights, Piers. Because there's criminals, I don't lose my rights.
Just answer the question.
Yeah.
Do you know what the weapon used was?
Listen, let me ask you a question.
No, answer.
I've got the FBI statistics that, that these so-called semi-autos that you talk about.
Let's take a break. When we come back.
Again, you're not going to get our guns.
When we come back, try and answer my question.
Yeah, all you're going to do is sit there and play little factoid questions. Overall crime's gone up over 20%. More.
Back now with Alex Jones. A man says I should be deported for my stand on guns. So, Alex, here's how this is going to work, and it's entirely down to you. I'm going to ask you some questions in the spirit of a proper debate, and you've had a lot to say so far on the show, and a lot of it aimed at me, which is fine. But I want you to try and answer the questions. It's a proper debate, okay? I'm not trying to trip you up.
No, it's not a debate. You're running the show. You bring in your victims up front.
Actually, no.
Look, you got your little note cards. Yeah, okay. I just gave you FBI statistics that violent crime and gun crime is down over 20%.
Alex, let me just ask you
this. And you want to go to little factoids.
No, they're not little
Anybody
factoids.
can pull those up. Listen.
Do you know what...
Do you have a bodyguard?
Alex.
Why do you have bodyguards?
I don't have a bodyguard.
Yeah, I've seen you on the news with them. Don't you want to protect your wife from hoodlums, or you want to call the police?
Let me ask you this question.
Why does Dianne Feinstein tell 60 Minutes that she plans to try to take Mr. and Mrs. America's guns?
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that. The votes weren't here.
Over me.
You guys want to disarm all of America.
No, I don't.
Dianne Feinstein's bill does.
I don't.
Gun confiscation.
No, let me clarify for you. You don't seem to understand.
First you register, then you confiscate. It's always done the same.
Here's what the campaign on this
Well, here, give me your little cue cards and I'll answer your questions for you.
What was the weapon used at Sandy Hook?
I've already gone over that and already answered it for you.
We haven't talked about Sandy Hook.
No, again,
what was the weapon?
It's a 223 M4.
Right.
Again, but statistically, they're using very low percentage of shootings.
But
period.
You
guys?
Are you seeing
people wouldn't go swimming because the movie Jaws, even though great white sharks kill 5 people a year.
Alex,
you're trying to scare people.
Let me say something.
There's no metal shark in the water.
The same type of weapon was used in the last 3
and that's right.
mass shootings.
And Hitler used semi-autos to kill people.
Why?
But it wasn't the militia that sparked Time's interest in guns as a young man. It was an unassuming trip to a Holocaust museum.
I was going through all the exhibits and the soap and the lampshades made of people's skin. And while I was looking, I heard a funny noise, and there was an old woman maybe 2 meters from me, and she was trying not to cry. She was sort of sobbing very quietly. She was holding it back. If she had been a few meters further away, I wouldn't have heard her. And she obviously had gone through that. That's when the whole impact of it hit me. And I promised myself I would never be in her situation. I would want to be free, never in a situation where somebody could, march us off to ovens or prisons or just take away our freedom.
Why would you
and
not?
So did Mao.
Why would you?
Why is the government arming to the teeth against us?
Alex, I don't know.
What about Fast and Furious?
Alex,
why do our government ship guns into Mexico?
The greatest failure we've had with regards to gun violence in some respects is what is known as Fast and Furious, which was a program under this administration, and how it worked exactly, I think we don't know precisely, but where thousands of automatic and AK-47 type weapons were given to people that ultimately gave them to drug lords. They used those weapons against their own citizens and killed Americans with them. And this was a program of the government. For what purpose it was put in place, I can't imagine. But it's one of the great tragedies related to violence in our society, which has occurred during this administration, which I think the American people would like to understand fully. It's been investigated to a degree, but the administration has carried out executive privilege to prevent all the information from coming out. I'd like to understand who it was that did this, what the idea was behind it, why it led to the violence. Thousands of guns going to Mexican drug lords.
You realize that the federal government has essentially been arming these cartels. What goes through your mind?
We feel it's a betrayal. 42,000 people have been killed, and these weapons that our own government facilitated to these violent criminals in Mexico, 200 plus people we know have been killed by them. So there's responsibility for that. 200 plus.
Alex.
To blame the Second Amendment?
Let's have a debate.
A false flag?
Alex.
To blame the Second Amendment?
I get accused.
Why'd they blow up Building 7 down the street here in New York?
What happened? We was in an explosion. We was in the lobby and the third explosion, the whole lobby collapsed on us.
What was it like? What was it like?
Horrible.
It's like hell. You don't want to know.
The whole building just collapsed on us inside the lobby.
Was that a secondary explosion?
Yes, it was.
That was the
planet, probably. Yeah, definitely secondary explosion.
I get accused when I get you guys on of talking over you, of being rude. I'm trying to be civil, right? You've got to try and answer some of the questions, right? Here's my issue for you. Why do civilians need an AR-15 type assault rifle? Why
I already said statistically they're used in a very low amount of the crimes. That's an FBI fact.
They've been used in the last 3 mass shootings.
Yes.
Why do
I'll tell you why.
them?
Because they advertise it in the media. Anybody knows that if somebody jumps off the Empire State Building, they put cops up there the next day because copycats come to do it again. The media hypes and hypes and hypes.
And that's not the question.
Don't just commit suicide.
Alex, why do people
Go commit
them?
suicide by killing a bunch of kids, and here's the gun to use because it's the one the U.S. Army uses.
Why do people need them?
They need them to protect us from the #1 killer in history. Government in the 20th century, university study out of Hawaii killed 292 million people. It's called democide. Google it, folks. Look what George Washington and many others said. Government is like fire. It is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. You bet it is. 260 plus million dead. Democide. China, from 1949 to 1987, the Communist Party killed 76 plus million people. And they even admit it. They're proud of it. The USSR, from 1917 to 1987, killed over 61 million people. Combined Western colonialism killed over 50 million people. Germany, under Hitler, from 1933 to 1945, killed more than 20 million people total, including their own population. Japan, during its imperial orgy, from 1936 to 1945, killed 5+ million people. Before Mao even got into power, from 1923 to 1948, they killed right around 3.5 million. And good old Pol Pot in Cambodia, funded by the U.S. government and Zbigniew Brzezinski, from 1975 to 1979, killed around 30% of his population, 2 million. Turkey, during their genocide of the Armenians, 1.8 million. Vietnam, 1.67 million. Poland, 1.585 million. Pakistan, 1.5+ million. Yugoslavia under Tito, 1,072,000. And the mega murder just continues. North Korea, 1.663 million. Mexico, 1,417,000. Russia, before the communists even got in, killed over 1 million. And it just goes on and on and on. For a whopping conservative total of 262 million. Government's winning the war against humanity.
I believe everyone in America, should everyone in America, therefore, have an AR-15 if they want one?
Statistically, where there's more guns, there's lower crime. The highest crime is in Bloomberg,
But you have the most
controlled
guns
areas
of any of the 23 richest countries in the world, and you have
Well, America was born on guns and whiskey.
Right, but
it's true we're a violent society.
Right. So you
but
accept that America
statistically,
has the most
knives
guns
kill
and the
3
most gun
times more.
murders.
Have you seen the FBI numbers? Knives, bats, rocks kill many times more.
Alex, let's talk about the guns.
It's not the rock. It's not the knife. When a mother chops her kids up with a cleaver because she's on serotonin.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
Why don't you want to get rid of the
AR-15s?
drugs? Because they're half your sponsors?
No, stick to the subject.
America's #1 cause of unnatural death now is suicide.
Okay. Alex,
not automobile accident, not cancer, not...
You accuse me of attacking the Second Amendment of the Constitution.
I want to get people off pills that the insert says will make you commit suicide and kill people.
Alex, let's get about to the Second Amendment.
I want to blame the real culprit. Suicide pills. Mass murder pills.
Okay, let me ask you one question. Your belief, unless I'm wrong...
First time anybody's ever heard this, by the way.
Your belief, unless I'm wrong, is that under the Second Amendment, your real concern is that you will be overrun by a tyrannical regime, either from somewhere else or
highway
from your own government.
checkpoints. Look at Mexico. Total gun ban for the citizens. Highest crime rate in the world. 57,000 people dead the last 5 years. Total gun ban for the citizens.
But
Switzerland has the lowest crime rate in Europe. Your country has the highest.
Alex, we have 35 gun murders a year. You have 11,000.
You people get their brains. It's the higher crime rate.
Let me ask you,
violent crime is higher.
On this specific...
It's brains.
Alex,
it's people.
I'm trying to get inside your brains.
Piers,
it's
if
not
you punched me
easy.
right now, it'd be not your fist, but your brain that did it.
Let me get inside your brain.
Okay.
Okay? I'm serious. You have a very, very big platform. You air, I think, on 63 networks.
No, that Wikipedia is like 10 years old. I'm on over 140 stations, XM.
Millions of Americans hear you
over 1.5 million
day.
visitors to Infowars.com
and I
today,
congratulate
where we have the
you on your
statistics posted right now, Infowars.com.
Who do you believe was behind 9/11?
Oh, I absolutely know. I have the police on CNN saying, get back, they're going to blow up 7.
I don't know about the first one, but I know the second it was terrible. Then there was a third one, too, after that one. That's right. Everybody was inside the building, waiting to go upstairs, and they just let loose. Everything just let loose inside the building.
So what you told me is that there was a plane or whatever hit the building, then a secondary explosion.
It was like 3 explosions after that. We came in after the fire. We came when the fire was going on already. We was in the staging area inside the building, waiting to go upstairs. And they exploded. The whole lobby collapsed on the lobby inside.
And it's this mayhem after that?
Just man, everybody tried to make their way out.
I have BBC reporting.
Who do you believe is behind
I have the proof. I heard them on CBS Radio.
Who, Alex?
They announced they blew up the towers on CBS Radio. New Yorkers all saw it and heard it.
Alex, who do you
believe? They blew up Building 7.
Alex,
wait a minute. Every war fought starts with a false flag operation.
You can't, in all seriousness, sit there and try and make anybody.
Okay, let me ask you this, Piers. Wait a minute. Let me ask you something. How much studying have you actually done of 9/11 other than what the government's told you and what mainstream media has told you? I've been studying it 4 years.
I was editor of a national newspaper.
I've talked to people. Wait a minute.
Depth every day for 5-6 months.
Really?
So I know a lot about it.
Well,
one thing I do know is,
let me ask you this then.
You cannot say that any member of the Bush administration knew it was going to happen or wanted it to happen. It's a ridiculous thing to say.
Ridiculous. Okay, let's talk about your BBC. I have a tape of a BBC reporter broadcasting directly back to England talking about a third building has collapsed. World Trade Center Building 7 talks for 7 minutes. All the while she's talking, World Trade Center Building 7 is still standing right behind her.
Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy. There's almost a sense down.
It didn't fall for another half hour, yet they were doing a pre-broadcast back to England that, yes, it's true,
you need to
that
take a
this
break
building fell and it hadn't fallen yet.
Who do you believe was behind it? The American government?
Criminal elements of the military-industrial complex, the same ones that staged Gulf of Tonkin, the same ones that staged Operation.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The mass shootings of Operation Gladio.
Right.
Ooh, the CIA don't like this now.
Do you mean that President Bush and his administration were behind 9/11?
I mean that even mainstream news reported that the hijackers were ordered to be allowed into the United States. Michael Springman, the head of the visa department, blew the whistle on that.
So the Bush administration was part of a conspiracy.
Well, he should never let us tolerate
to murder
I can speak in this accent as well.
Yeah.
The
but is that what you
government,
believe?
Hitler firebombed his own Reichstag, Piers.
Sometimes primitive force is the only way. Helps if there's some kind of legal reason behind it, of course, something outrageous to provoke a response.
To bring in martial law in Germany, April 27th, 1933. Governments have staged terror attacks throughout history or allowed terrorists to attack as a pretext to invade and enslave the populations. I probably own more than 50 firearms. Many of them have increased in value 2, 3, or even 4 times. I sleep very comfortably outside Austin, Texas, knowing that I can defend my family.
Okay, Alex Jones. This is
Infowars.com.
This is the man who wants to deport me from the country for wanting to get rid of
it's to point out you're a foreigner, a red coat, here telling us what to do.
Whatever.
Go back to where they took the guns if you don't like it. The communists...
And that's the most important thing about the campaign.
Shouldn't we abolish the Federal Reserve and the CFR? That's the real reality that none of you will talk about, most of you are members. That's what's destroying this country, Governor. Don't you stand for America, sir? What about the Federal Reserve and the CFR? You people are being lied to. This country's been taken over by Europe, and I'm being drug out. Laugh at it.
A part of that plan, of course, is to induce the gradual surrender of American sovereignty, piece by piece and step by step, to various international organizations, of which the United Nations is the outstanding but far from the only example.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day.
What law does the United States military look to?
Yeah, if I could, since I'd like to address both because they are related. We act with the authorized use of military force either at the consent of a government, so we're invited in, or out of national self-defense, and it's a very there's a very clear criteria for that. And then the last one is with some kind of international legal basis, an UNSCR.
Wait a minute. Let's talk about an international legal basis. You answer under the Constitution to the United States government, do you not? And you don't need any international support before you would carry out a military operation authorized by the commander-in-chief.
No, of course not. That's the second one I mentioned.
I just want to know that because there's a lot of references in here to international matters before we make a decision. And I want to be sure that the United States military understands, and I know you do, that we're not dependent on a NATO resolution or UN resolution to execute policies consistent with the national security of the United States.
You're a hatchet man of the New World Order. Okay. You're a hatchet man.
Ted, what do you think America's place in the New World Order should be? It's always been seen as the global policeman. But as you said before, it's hard to see with all these military conflicts where the winner and loser lies. What should America be doing?
I think the global policeman should be the United Nations.
This, as the president pledged to shape, quote, a new international order. Brian Moore is in D.C. with details.
Addressing the graduating cadets at West Point, President Obama called for a new U.S. role on the world stage.
So we have to shape an international order.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
I think the New World Order is emerging.
What it really is putting the American economy under international regulation.
Yeah.
And those people who have been yelling, oh, the UN's going to take over global
Conspiracy
government.
theorists.
They've been crazy, but now they're right.
Out of it came a new Europe, a new world order, a new consensus as to how life should and could be lived.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it.
And a few members were even told that there would be martial law in America if we voted no. That's what I call fear-mongering.
Now, the order essentially gives the President of the United States absolute power over any and all American resources during both times of peace and national crisis.
Fox News alert: for the second time in 3 days, the United Nations has had to postpone action on a controversial new gun control treaty that would regulate firearms across the globe.
American and Russian troops will hold a series of joint anti-terror drills in the U.S. state of Colorado next month. Russia's defense ministry said Thursday that this will be the first time.
And obviously we are looking at the UN Security Council. This time around, President Barack Obama will actually be hosting the meeting.
I'm against having a king. I think having a monarch is what we fought the American Revolution over. And someone who wants to bypass the Constitution, bypass Congress, that's someone who wants to act like a king or a monarch. I've been opposed to executive orders, even with Republican president, but one that wants to infringe on the Second Amendment.
While you weren't looking, President Obama gave the government a new power. Just this past Friday, he quietly implemented an executive order that reprioritizes communications through a special White House chosen committee.
Congressman Stockton says if the president is allowed to suspend constitutional rights on his own personal whims, our free republic has effectively ceased to exist.
There is a bill that has already passed the U.S. Senate. It is expected to be passed in the House, and it would make it mandatory for all new cars in the United States to be fitted with black box data recorders, just like planes, starting in the year 2015.
What's your take on what's going on here? I mean, everybody in the Senate took an oath to uphold the Constitution, which says no person, doesn't even say no American, it says no person shall be denied life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And here they go ahead and vote for legislation that denies it.
Are we at one of those moments in history in which there is the necessity for a new world order?
You're a hatchet man of the New World Order. Okay. You're a hatchet man.
There's a need for a new world order.
Ted, do you think America's place in the New World Order should be? It's always been seen as the global policeman. But as you said before, it's hard to see with all these military conflicts where the winner and loser lies. What should America be doing?
I think the global policeman should be the United Nations.
A bill written in secret by Senator McCain and Senator Carl Levin that would give the U.S. military and non-civilian law enforcement agencies the ability to arrest anyone and hold that person indefinitely, even if that person is an American arrested on American soil.
Government is going to tell you what you could grow on your farm, how to grow it, but could they tell you how to grow your garden? Really? No big deal, or yet another sign the government really doesn't know its boundaries. A number of food safety bills are circulating in Congress now, and I've been a lot of phone calls on these to my radio program. This happened after the peanut scare. One of them threatens to wipe out small farmers, and you could even be in trouble for growing a tomato in your backyard.
In today's Street Signs What If, we wonder what if we got rid of cash. After all, cash is what keeps terrorists, drug dealers, and gun dealers in business. Could a move to a cashless economy around the world help America? Coming to the way you experience a visit to Disney World.
The park is unveiling a whole new generation of technology that includes rubber wristbands that'll be used for everything from paying for a souvenir to unlocking your hotel room door.
This former United States Air Marshal, Jeffrey Denning, says he was stunned when he learned about new technology that could be used as your boarding pass and as a GPS device to track you and your luggage through the airport. But it also could be used as a weapon.
The bracelet has a capacity to shock who's ever wearing it, kind of like a police taser.
A new program in the Northside School District will be able to electronically track students anywhere they go on campus. It's a pilot program. Start next year at Anson Jones Middle School and John Jay High School.
The police and National Guard going street by street, house to house, sometimes entering open houses with guns drawn, and instructions to disarm anyone inside.
You say guns will be taken. No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
And you know what? The Bavarian Illuminati, the Trilateral Commission, Goldman Sachs, and the Queen of England are not all bad.
It is backed by President Obama, which is a reversal from the policies under President Bush. But our next guest says that these UN rules could fundamentally change American gun laws and threaten our Second Amendment rights right here at home.
First, the U.S. has been adding a fluoride to its public water supply for decades. Well, now researchers from Japan are suggesting that we add lithium.
It's referred to as an international currency, United Future World Currency. Here it is. You can already take a look at it and even touch it.
Now, you also have something interesting to say about UN election monitors. What's going on with this?
This is the height of hubris. In my new book, Here Come the Black Helicopters, UN Global Governance and the Loss of Freedom, we talk about the goal of the UN to become a global government. Well, yesterday they announced that there will be 48 UN inspectors sent to the United States on election from Europe and Central Asia to monitor the fairness of our electoral process.
What do you think America's place in the New World Order should be? It's always been seen as the...
9. A constant hammering into the American consciousness of the horror of modern warfare, the beauties and the absolute necessity of peace. Peace always on communist terms, of course. And 10, the consequent willingness of the American people to allow the steps of appeasement by our government which amount to a piecemeal surrender of the rest of the free world and of the United States itself.
Secretary Panetta, you, in your talk, in your remarks, you talk about first, we're working to increase diplomatic isolation and encouraging other countries to join the European Union and Arab League in imposing sanctions. And then you note that China and Russia have repeatedly blocked the UN Security Council from taking action. Are you saying, and is the President taking the position, he would not act if it was in our interest to do so if the UN Security Council did not agree?
When it comes to the kind of military action
where we want to build a coalition and work with our international partners, then obviously we would like to have some kind of legal basis on which to do it, as we did in Libya.
Now, some sort of legal basis. We worried about international legal basis, but nobody worried about the fundamental constitutional legal basis that this Congress has over war. We were not asked, stunningly, in direct violation of the War Powers Act, whether or not you believe it's Constitution. It certainly didn't comply with it. We spent our time worrying about the UN, the Arab League, NATO, and too little time, in my opinion, worrying about the elected representatives of the United States. Do you think that you can act without Congress and initiate a no-fly zone in Syria without congressional approval?
You know, again, our goal would be to seek international permission, and we would come to the Congress and inform you and determine how best to approach this, whether or not we would want to get permission from the Congress. I think those are issues we would have to discuss as we decide what to do here.
Well, I'm almost breathless about that, because what I heard you say is we're going to seek international approval, and they will come and tell the Congress what we might do, and we might seek congressional approval.
No, well,
I want to just say to you, that's a big dish. Wouldn't you agree? You've served in the Congress.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree that that's would be pretty breathtaking to the average American? So would you like to clarify that?
Which is all being shipped overseas. They're shutting down this nation. And they can make their jokes. I challenge these law enforcement officers to go to Walmart or any other store. 95% of the items are from out of this nation, from India, from China, from you name it. And that's a fact. That's a concrete fact. What are we supposed to fight the next war with? Wendy's hamburgers? We gonna throw hamburgers at them? And you got to ask yourself, why is this happening to our country? Because we're America. We stood up to Adolf Hitler. We stood up to Stalin. We stood up to the British Empire and kicked their butt back in 1776. And we're going to do it again, George Bush and Bill Clinton. You're nothing but British agents. Everybody ground around. Jeff Davis is fixing to burn this flag. And I want to say something to law enforcement. We love you guys. We just see you being led astray, controlled by Comrade Clinton. And we know the Bush and Waco. Hey, mind your wife? You're not fast enough.
Surrender my nation to your glorification.
Hey, turn the camera. Cut the heart out. There you go. Somebody spread this. Ready? Come on. Yeah, hold the other corner. We stay to charity right here, brother.
We're going to tell them.
This is the violent organization. Now let's burn it. Private Navy Molly, go park where you're arrested. Okay, bye, baby. Remember, baby? Yeah. Hey, buddy.